What's going on, everybody? Jack Acid here, bringing you episode 11 of the I Am No Expert Career Mode series of F1 2012. And as you can see, before we start our weekend, we have our first contract offer on this career mode file, this time coming in from Sauber, and probably going to be my only opportunity to change teams. And the emails explicitly said that they wanted an answer right away. But I'm going to go ahead and think about it for one race and see what happens. As you can see, first things first, got to get through an R&D objective, and in this instance we need to get through 3 laps without using our DRS, and we're only going to be using a rich fuel setting. So as long as we're able to beat the target time of 1:35 and some change, which we'll be able to do here, able to get the R&D objective, and that's good for 10% increased downforce, so that's definitely worthwhile. But back to business here in Q1 at Budapest in Hungary. You can see that the weather has turned very, very sour. Team objective is to finish 10th. And a lot's going to depend on what the AI's pace is in this weather. As you can see, we've got a 100% chance of rain, obviously, for qualifying, but 28% chance on race day. Going to go ahead and gamble and do a dry setup, I think. Not really sure when the rain will come. Hard to say. Usually if it's over 50%, I'll consider doing a wet setup or maybe a low downforce setup. But in this case, I'm going to roll the dice. And you can see my setup here. To be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure I ended up liking this setup as much as maybe I would have preferred to, so take this with a grain of salt. Of course, you can find a number of setups online. I use racedepartment.com. If you've never used them, that's worth a look. Usually have quite a bit of feedback. But this is basically just a case of making my bed. Now I have to lay in it. So getting out here into Q1, and you can see that the weather conditions are absolutely god-awful. Here at the end of lap 2, able to get a P1 result though, and just under 2.5 seconds in front of the next guy, in this case, which is Hulkenberg. And of course, what the weather does from this point will dictate if that's good enough to get into Q2. You can see skipping ahead here in lap 3, and a very close collision here with Raikkonen. Almost didn't see him there coming up over that very fast blind summit. And fortunately, disaster averted. So pulling into the garage, being satisfied, and amazingly keeping the P1 time. And that must be related to the weather, there's no question about it. But we won't complain. We'll take it into Q2 and hope that we can make better of it to get into Q3. And as you can see, skipping ahead, weather conditions have not improved a bit. So that very well could help us, but you never know. This game seems to be a little bit inconsistent when it comes to the pace of the AI, especially in qualifying. So here on our first timed lap, you can see that Paul di Resta up ahead, having all kinds of problems with the conditions. Very miserable, losing a little bit of grip there. Obviously the last kind of problem that you want to have on a qualifying lap. And here through turn 7, getting a little squirrely and able to get our bearings around turn 8, but that's going to cost me a lot of time. So now anxious to see what we can do, running P13 for timing and scoring as of now. And able to improve our time to 11th, but already beaten out by the cars following. And in fact drop all the way to 14th. So now upping my fuel mix, hoping to get some kind of headway here. Remember, we have to get into the top 10 to move on, and more problems here coming up over turn 4. And things just not going my way. Now going back into the garage, nearing the 6-minute mark, getting a fresh set of tires. And going back out, and you can see I have not been able to improve my time, and worse yet, here at the end of lap 6, I have effectively run out of fuel, so the car wheezing. And you can see getting close with my teammate there. Going to go ahead and set my fuel mix back to lean and pull it back into the garage. So a very disappointing session. And worse yet, beaten out by Daniel Ricciardo in qualifying by 1 position. So we're going to have it all to do on race day, but hopefully with the weather being better, at least I hope we start in the dry. Remember, there is a 28% chance of rain, but typically they're dry to start, and that's the case here. Nice, bright, clear, blue day, which is a welcome sight, of course. The only problem is I haven't had a whole lot of time to practice my setup in dry conditions, so this is going to be a little bit of a gamble. Taking a quick look at the starting grid, Sebastian Vettel on pole position, Kamui Kobayashi up in 5th, and Jenson Button there in 11th, and there, of course, I am there in P15, and I apologize, I forgot to get a screen capture of the bottom part of the grid, but chances are it's the usual suspects, although I will note that Nico Rosberg starting in P19, so not sure what happened to him. Anyway, sorry about that. Going to go ahead and start off on the option tires. It recommended that I start with Prime, and we're going to use a normal fuel strategy, so we're going to have probably about 3 or 4 laps of fuel to start, and we will use that as the race goes on. But not feeling overly confident in my practice time spent here. We'll have to see how it goes. This actually was a very interesting race in my 2011 series. I recommend you check that out. And I actually won that race. I believe it was the first of only 2 that I won last year, so I have at least somewhat good memories of Hungary, but again, haven't played it in quite a while, and this is my first time on F1 2012. So here we are to start, taking a look at the back of Paul di Resta and the Force Indy up in P13, and next to our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and we're underway here at Budapest. Not a bad start. But now you can see the AI pulling away ever so slightly here. And here comes Kovalainen in the Caterham heading down into turn 1. And hopefully we can make up some ground. Slight contact there with Paul di Resta. Going to try and make a cut on the inside, splitting him and Ricciardo. And now almost wheel to wheel with my teammate. Going to try and get inside position here up at turn 2 and see if I can get around the Ferrari. And now getting boxed in by Schumacher in the Mercedes. Coming around here, a very tricky corner, especially with traffic. And very, very fast turn 3. Now we wheel to wheel with Schumacher coming out of the exit there. Able to get ahead of him heading into turn 4. Let's see if we can make up some ground on Maldonado as we slide up into P8. Now coming up to turn 5 and going very wide here, and that's going to give Schumacher an opportunity. Now wheel to wheel with the Mercedes as we head down into turn 6, a very slow chicane. And Schumacher falling back now to let us through, but now heading into a very dreaded set of corners, turns 7, 8, 9, and 10, and you can see just butchering turn 7 there. And going wide here at turn 8, and that's going to give Schumacher another look, but not able to get around. Flat out here through turn 9, and now around turn 10, another difficult corner to master for me, although I think I have made some headway on him in my time. I'll explain more about that later on as the race goes on. You can see there that Schumacher was interested in getting around me, but that's a very short straightaway, not a lot of opportunity for the AI to get around. And turn 12 right through there, very challenging to get your entry point right. I don't know what my problem is, but something between my speed and the angle that I come in on have a lot of problems there at turn 12. So here after one lap, just under 2.7 seconds behind Maldonado up in P7, and here comes Schumacher, but it looks like he's going to run out of room as we break down into turn 1, and kissing the top of the curb there. Don't want to give them any window, and exiting out here and not able to gain much ground. Now skipping ahead here on lap 3, and again coming through these very challenging corners. Here's turn 8 again, and now offline, and here comes Schumacher along the outside. Now wheel to wheel with the Mercedes coming around here through turn 9, now through turn 10. Let's see if we're able to share enough space. Yes, we are still wheel to wheel heading down into turn 11, and hoping to outbrake him here and not clip him cutting on the inside. Want to get the line back and able to avoid contact with Schumacher, thankfully not spinning him out. But a very spirited couple of corners there, and I expect nothing less from the 7-time world champion. Very ballsy maneuvers. Very, very close contact with the wall coming around here at the end of lap 3. Let's have a quick look at timing and scoring. A god-awful, almost 9-second gap between Maldonado. And there goes Schumacher along the outside. Let's see if we can get him down here into turn 1. And the Mercedes is just flying down that straight. And able to control the car, compose myself, level out, and retain P8. And currently have 4 extra laps of fuel. Going to need that later. So now skipping ahead to the end of lap 6. And Felipe Massa in the Ferrari has taken over Schumacher. And here he comes. Let's see if he has it go on the outside. And yes, he does. Looks a lot like Schumacher coming down here on the start-finish straight. And not able to get back in front of the Ferrari. Going wide here at turn 1. Had to go outside there. Otherwise, I would have slammed right into the back of Felipe Massa. And our old friend Schumacher's back, chasing us down here through turn 2. And boy, I can't tell you what a benefit it is to have the AI in front of you so that you can actually follow your lines better. I obviously don't have this track as mastered as I should, and still have a issue with some of my braking points coming up over here through turn 4. Now heading into turn 5 and getting my steering all wrong. More problems here at turn 5. I don't usually have an issue with that corner, but for some reason struggling. Now competing with Schumacher down into turn 6 and going a little bit wide at the chicane and losing a little bit of grip on the exit. And Michael Schumacher not able to take advantage. A little bit of oversteer going through turn 7. Still don't have these corners right, and going wide at turn 8 yet again, and now losing control, trying to sustain, and able to stay ahead of the Mercedes for now. Flat out through turn 9. Now bending around through turn 10. Let's see if Schumacher has it go on the outside. He's got the pace, but has to back off. And basically very fortunate not to lose another position through that little sequence. Now being signaled by my engineer to come into box, and let's see if Schumacher does the same. If he does, then all this dueling will be worthwhile. If not, he'll probably outpace me as he goes around. It looks like he's going to stay out, having a hard time finding the road to get into the pit lane. Now coming in finally. And you can see that it's actually a very quiet pit lane. As you can see, losing positions here near the bottom of the grid. Looks like most cars have chosen to stay out a little bit longer. And actually looking at my tires, I probably could have done the same. But getting out here in just under 3 seconds, so a very good time from my team, probably the fastest I've had all year, thinking that maybe Codemasters might have patched that. So now exiting the pit lane, very, very busy. Exiting now into a cloud of cards, back markers to be specific, and there's Charles Peak able to get around him and start to get wheel spin on the exit, and that's going to allow the Marussia to get by. Now being hunted by Kartha Kayan and the HRT. I can't believe I'm saying this. Trying to stick with Charles Peak coming around turn 2, but you can see the cold tires not doing me any favors going wide there, and very fortunate not to lose yet another position. Have to think, of course, these cars haven't gone into pit yet. Skipping ahead to the end of lap 8, you can see not able to catch up with the Marussia, and time to find out what the times are really looking like as the pit stops start to shake out. So getting very close to that wall each time I come around turn 13. And so far I've avoided any problems. You can see quite a few cars in the pit lane there, as the engineer is actually saying at this very moment. Now passing a Lotus coming out of the pit lane, and going to have our hands full down here at turn 1, competing with Button at the pit lane exit. And wheel to wheel with the McLaren, you can see making slight contact there with him. Pretty wide track right here. Let's see if we can outbrake him here up at turn 2. Going to be very tricky. You can see a little bit of wobble from the McLaren, able to get ahead of him and make the overtake stick up into P16. So now, even with the first round of pit stops, really not much improvement with our position here. Still down at P16. Going to have a lot of questions coming around again to find out where we really shake out. But for now, got to keep my focus on Jensen Button, who's pushing very, very hard. Still following Charles Peak, who's obviously started on the prime tires and will be pitting a lot later. Let's see if we can stay ahead of the McLaren coming through turn 7. Probably the best that I've taken that corner so far. But again, more problems coming out of here at turn 8. Not as grievous as laps past. Jensen Button not able to make a move. Flat out here through turn 9. Starting to go off onto the grass there, coming around turn 10. Let's see if Jensen Button wants to have a look on the inside. Looks like he's not going to. And still trying to chase down Charles Peak. Let's see if he goes into pit this time around. If he started on the primes, he's probably going to stay out a little bit longer. But he may have started on the options and just kept going. And yes, he is going in. So back marker's out of the way. Swinging around turn 13. Let's see what happens up ahead at the pit stops, and Jensen Button looking to have a go here. Let's see what he does, but a quick visual assessment. Looks like we're going to be competing with a few cars coming out, including Ricardo, who got ahead of us. And here comes Jensen Button along the inside, but a very busy pit lane exit. And swinging wide here at turn 1. Don't want to make contact with anybody coming out, and getting around Bruno Senna in the Williams car. Now chasing down Paul Di Resta in the Force India. It looks like Sergio Perez ahead of him. And Hulkenberg slowing down a great deal here at turn 2, cutting on the inside. And he gets boxed out. Now chasing down Sergio Perez through turn 3. Hulkenberg slowed down a great deal coming around turn 2. And able to get around him really easy, actually. Coming up over here through turn 4. And now being advised by the engineer that rain is expected. Hopefully that doesn't come into play. It's getting towards the past the midway point of the race, so hopefully it's not an issue. And Sergio Perez slowing down a great deal here through turn 6. Trying to stay on track and up over the curb and almost off onto the lawn. And somehow the overtake is considered legal. I was trying to share that chicane, trying to get around Sergio Perez, who inexplicably had slowed down there. And ended up going up over the curb, went airborne, and lo and behold, the position sticks. But here we are at the start of lap 11. You can see that Hulkenberg and the Force India not having any of it, able to overtake easily on the outside. Now competing with, looks like Rosberg, who remember started in P19 and overshooting here at turn 1, and able to get ahead of both cars and get up into P10. Remember, I don't believe I've had a finish outside of the top 10 all year, so want to keep that up, want to get at least 1 point. Even though, of course, the Drivers' Championship and Constructors' Championship are out of reach. Now, of course, there are some that will say that, you know, getting so many top 10 finishes in the Toro Rosso means that I need to bump up my difficulty. But the reality is, professional AI is pretty fast for me. Usually the pace is much quicker than I am, and I think that because of my lack of knowledge or lack of practice time put into some of these tracks, honestly, I make too many mistakes to really compete with the upper AI levels. Now, Hulkenberg here trying to make a move on the inside, coming down into turn 1, and you can see that he's not going to be able to get around. And so at this point, with just a handful of laps to go, probably going to be fending off the Force India and probably Rosberg. So now skipping ahead here to the start of lap 13, and trying to stay ahead of Hulkenberg, not getting any problems on the exit like I did coming off on the cold tires. That was a close call. Almost spun out right into the wall. And having problems here at turn 2, and that's going to give Hulkenberg a look on the inside, and he's able to get around. Now chasing him down through turn 3 and trying to stay ahead of Rosberg. And my only hope of trying to gain ground on Hulkenberg at this point is to catch him up here through turn 4, getting that one all wrong. And that's just not going to cut it. Not able to catch up with Hulkenberg. He pulls ahead here at the start of lap 14. And you can see now it's just down between me and Rosberg. And there goes my beloved 1 point. But have to play for pride at this point and stay ahead of the Mercedes. Remember, I was dueling with Schumacher at the beginning of this race for the first good handful of laps. So it sort of makes sense that I have this bookend session with Nico Rosberg being chased down here through turn 9 and now through turn 10. And let's see what kind of speed Nico has coming out of turn 10. And here it comes on the inside. Looks like he's going to have a go. Should be able to pinch him out here down at turn 11. And yes, able to do so. That's a familiar scene from earlier with Schumacher. But then came turn 12, going wide here off onto the track. And there goes Nico Rosberg, now wheel to wheel with Bruno Senna in the Williams. Coming around here, turn 13, going wide here, starting to lose my cool and losing my focus. Wheel to wheel with Bruno Senna now on the inside. Desperate to keep pace with Nico Rosberg coming down the start-finish straight. Going to go ahead and up our fuel mix. And there goes Bruno Senna in the Williams. Should be able to get around him. Now cutting on the inside of Nico Rosberg here at turn 1. Can we keep it on the rails? Yes, we are able to do so, back up into P11, and thus concludes a very spirited duel here at the start of lap 15 here in Sector 1, and making sure that Nico has no opportunity to get around me here, and he's going to have to wait if he wants to get by on one of the longer parts of the track. So skipping ahead here to the end of lap 15, and this is where Nico could really make up some hay, and as you can see, nose to tail, looks like he's going to make a move here, and here he comes on the outside, able to overtake easily, almost going off onto the lawn there. And let's see if we can outbrake him once and for all down here at turn 1. Able to get around him, going a little bit wide here at turn 1. And it looks like Bruno Senna has overtaken Rosberg for P12. And that's undoubtedly helped by the fact that I pushed him out there a little bit. Didn't actually mean to do that. Was braking a little bit late. Wanted to make sure to get the position back, and we're able to do so. And it looks like some clouds are now rolling in. And you can see now that they've really built up, and actually it's starting to sprinkle a little bit here at the start of lap 18. So now I have to be concerned about traction on the track. It might be hard to tell, but it is actually raining. And so far haven't felt any real problems on the circuit, but of course we got 1 lap to go. And you could see that Bruno Senna was thinking about having to move there on the inside, but he ran out of track. Able to get around here at turn 1 with no problem. Let's see what happens up here at turn 2. You can see I've got a pretty good gap to Bruno. Going to take a significant mistake at this point to lose a position, but I am very concerned about the conditions of the track as the lap goes on. Thankfully, this is the final lap, but 1 mistake, that's all it takes. And you can see the rain coming down pretty good here, coming up over turn 4. Now testing the grips here at turn 5, able to hold a pretty good line, but you can see that Bruno making a push, now heading into the tight chicane of turn 6. And hoping to keep everything on the ground. You can see going up over the curb a little bit, problems with the exit, and heading into these dreaded sets of corners that I finally started to feel more comfortable on. Well, mostly anyway, rolling up over the curb there through turn 8. At least I didn't go wide. That would have undoubtedly let Senna go by, but having a little bit of struggles with my confidence coming around these corners because of the conditions. And this is going to be Bruno Senna's last opportunity to make some kind of a move, going a little bit wide here at turn 11. But as you can see, the Williams not able to take advantage, and the big test here at turn 12, and thankfully able to manage it pretty well there. Tires not really giving out. 1 corner to go here to at least get P11, so the first time we'll finish outside of the points. Almost rolling up over the curb, but able to avoid any kind of a spin out and finish here at least a couple of positions ahead of team expectations, but again, a disappointment for myself. Not able to get a point. You can see our teammate Ricardo finishing 2 places above us. So let's have a quick look at the final results, and you can see scrolling up to the top here that Mark Webber in the Red Bull able to win the race, and it was a 1-2-4 Red Bull, Vettel finishing in 2nd. Lewis Hamilton rounding out the podium in P3, and look at this in the middle of the grid, Pedro de la Rosa on the HRT finishing in 17th. Unbelievable, finishing a couple of spots ahead of Jenson Button. And Kimi in the Lotus being the race's only DNF casualty, and Nico Rosberg able to finish P13 starting from P19. So very strange results for this race, and very strange weather patterns at the very end. But ultimately I don't think it cost anyone too many places. The race had mostly shaken out by that point. So gonna finish off with some highlights here. Want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I apologize that this series has slowed down just a little bit. My time has been a real issue lately, and I do promise that I'll get through the season, but might be taking my time a little bit getting these videos out. Gonna have to do it as I can. Hope you're understanding of that. But in the meantime, have a number of other videos for you to check out on my channel. A number of Forza 4 videos with commentary. Also have an F1 2011 series, as well as an F1 2012 Season Challenge Mode series. So that might fill your time until the next one. But of course, if you guys have any questions or comments, I do encourage you to leave a comment. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you at Spa in Belgium.